Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star Atlas Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 169. Any articles or videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Just look for Weekly Recap Newsletter 217. So just a quick summary of things to go over that happened this past week in Star Atlas. Pretty much just the community Atlas Brew, Wednesday my time. So go over that. But before I get to that, just a couple things that I'm working on in Star Atlas. Again, my website, intergalacticherald.com. It's a great resource website for guides, directories, recaps, a Discord announcement newsfeed. I will admit everything's getting a little bit outdated, but hopefully we'll get some new gameplay things and start creating some new content. So also have a Star Atlas merch store at intergalacticgear.com, open for business. Doesn't have a lot of selection, but again, with, if they build it, they will come. If they come, we'll build it type of thing. And then finally, I'd definitely like to create a community of Star Atlas gamers that aren't joining guilds. You can check out Intergalactic Coalition for more information about that. So as I mentioned this past week, there was the regular Atlas Brew from the community team. This time they actually had, in addition to regular members, Jose, the lore writer, and I believe John, the product manager, developer for Holsim. They did actually have one of the co-founders, the CTO, Jacob, on there. So it was definitely a wide variety of information. They are continuing with the tabletop RPG game. I'm going to assume that's sort of Dungeon and Dragon-like thing, getting closer on that. They started now teasing a upcoming town hall, so the announcement type of thing. I'll talk a little more about the town hall later on. And then kind of jumped around between different people talking about different things. So Jacob, the CTO, was talking about kind of what's been going on the last 6 months. He mentioned lots of product development, recalibration because of loss of team members, but he did say lots of stuff is still being developed. Kind of alluded to even something about the DAO Treasury reporting they've been able to maybe address or will address, and then kind of got a little bit into some of the DAO stuff related to actual gameplay, which we've heard years ago, and then they kind of stopped talking, so I think they were getting close to announcing things, so we'll see if that actually transpires. More information about Holsim and talking about some tweaks they want to do for combat before they kind of move forward with that. And then kind of jumped around again to some of the discussions about kind of the infrastructure that Star Atlas is being built upon, being cost effective because they don't have to have any servers. And again, this concept of direct RPCs, which, sorry, I don't really understand, but I know that's part of a communication protocol. One thing that, again, this was Jacob, the CTO, mentioned, and he did mention this many years ago, this idea of paying on the blockchain. He actually used an analogy, quoting him. I think he said something like it's $100,000 a day to run World of Warcraft, and that's why you have to pay money, because basically you're subsidizing your cost of storage. And again, given that he's a technology person, different perspective than just games and how games are visually seen, the kind of design, but that hadn't really thought that, every player who plays a game online anyways, there's a corresponding cost, and he kind of said compute and data storage. So every time you play the game, there's computational things that occur, and that has to be paid for on cloud servers and things like that. But even just the data to store your character, just the fact that it exists, and those have to be paid for. So that's what your membership, your monthly charge is if you want to keep those characters. And he was kind of alluding to how on the blockchain, that's why even if we don't pay a direct monthly fee to a developer, i.e. Star Atlas, you're paying in those rent fees and things like that. So I don't know. Again, it seems like we've heard some of that before, but again, I think it was just nice to kind of say, this is sort of a different, I'll just use the word paradigm, that, this isn't how traditional game MMOs are set up. I mean, the blockchain is able to run it, and you got to pay the blockchain to have all this stuff. So he also talked a little bit about the changes they're doing for game development using AI. Talked a little bit about, making sure there's safety when the AI does work, but he talked a little bit about that they are really embracing this AI agents to basically, work, just like an employee. You just kind of have a task list and it just sort of works through everything. So yeah, so that was all kind of good. I really appreciated kind of getting all those different perspectives. So, and then they kind of again ended with, no, we're really close to release date and things like that. So yeah, so that was pretty much the Atlas Brew. Kind of move forward again with the kind of my thoughts on the state of Star Atlas, as I kind of mentioned again about this release date / town halls. So yeah, traditionally again, town halls have always been for Star Atlas these big announcements, but in hindsight, last few years they were just game updates, as opposed to, I think, literally the first year, which I wasn't actually involved, there was way more. Well, there were more town halls, but there were more about things. So like the original poster series. So I'm just reading between the lines that I think this might be the first town hall in a long time that this is the product. At least that's my hope. So yeah. Sounds like we are getting hopeful, or getting closer to a lot of this. And again, I kind of alluded to it, but I mean, we have to have an actual roadmap. We have to have when things are coming, and I would hope that the development, and they alluded to it on this Atlas Brew, but they've said it before. I mean, moving to this PTR, this playtest of C4, I mean, it for all intents and purposes is the game. It's just not going to use real world. It's going to have real world actions, but it won't have real world consequences. So you won't be putting your actual ships and crew on the blockchain. You'll be just given something, but you'll be running the blockchain Zinc on the copy of Solana and all that stuff. And then, of course, obviously all the game logic that's built there. So, and again, this is just me. For all intents and purposes, you're playing the game. You just don't have your real assets yet, and that's the playtest. And so, yeah, it really feels like, I mean, when that occurs, we reached a threshold. And to go to real assets, everything has to work because there's consequences. So, yeah, I mean, I think even if that between the launch and the true launch is an undetermined amount of time, the fact that they are able to make that available I think that's the major milestone. So, yeah, I mean, timelines I think are fine. When it's ready, got to have, it has to work. But that's what I meant more about an actual roadmap and an actual product. That there's actually something that finally isn't just a placeholder or a countdown, or I guess not countdown, but check every 24 hours to get your resources. I mean, this is actually the thing. So, yeah. So always great to hear from one of the other co-founders. Again, I know they aren't as public figures of the three of them. And actually, now I think about it, Michael Wagner hasn't been on a Atlas Brew in a while, but he's always commenting in Discord. So, but if nothing else, it's always, I think, a good reminder of the caliber of the people that founded this company, their knowledge, their leadership, their vision. I mean, I still remember watching the three of them talk. They said it was the first time at whatever summit they did, I don't even remember how years ago. And again, they're people you are in the right place to lead a company. It just, timing and resource allocations and stuff like that. So yeah, to wrap up, kind of thinking about it, I do admit I'm kind of getting excited. Like I mentioned last podcast or one before about seeing the claim stakes demo. I mean, it looked like a game. So yeah, hope it's not, again, just a town hall about updates, but actual things that are going to get shipped that we can interact with, again, even if it is the play test. So yeah, and then just wrap up my podcast. Yeah, again, kind of things I've been doing in Star Atlas, still just playing Starbase to earn the Zinc experience and hopefully get enough resources to craft the Mamba X. So I'm still just mining copper ore. Had to send my resupply feed out. Supply feet. Nope, it's too late at night. Supply fleet to Risk. A little miner guy that's out there. So yeah, just still trying to not overdo my Solana fees, but yet still earn a little Zinc in the process. So yeah, just steady as she goes, just mining that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it this past week in Star Atlas. Again, do check out my website, intergalacticherald.com, for resources and directories and the Discord newsfeed, and of course, obviously the newsletter that I put out, and of course, past podcasts if you want to check those out. IntergalacticGear.com is my merch store for Star Atlas, and Intergalactic Coalition is a hopeful future community of Star Atlas gamers. So anyways, again, that was the week in review of Star Atlas. I'm Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Have a great week ahead.